I want to ask you, what is your writing process? Like, do you have a daily writing process? How do you work?
I used to have a daily writing process, but with my kids, that kind of changes a little bit. So I kind
Yeah.
of have to be flexible and adjust. And a lot of it depends on, if I have an assignment or not.
Mhm.
If it's something that I'm just writing spec, then I can kind of just go with the flow and write when I have time to do something like that. If I have a writing assignment, of course, my family's understanding. We kind of create blocks of time for me to work, things like that. But what I like to do, especially with assignments, is I spend a lot of time in outlining and developing before I even type fade in. I would say that out of the entire time that I spend writing, probably at least 65 to 70% of that is before I actually write the script. So I really like to take a lot of meetings with the producer or the studio or the director, whoever's involved, and really make sure we get on the same page about what's going on. And I really try to, especially with all these things being low budget, low ultra low budget things, I write to their assets. So we'll have meetings about, where are you planning to shoot this? What type of things you already have that you want to use that I can use in developing the story. Do you have performers that you're going to cast in your movie? Can I see their reel? Can I see some of their previous work so I know how they deliver their lines? What kind of cadence do they have? Let me get inside their head so I can deliver something that fits with the kind of characters that they do. Those type of things that I'll sit down and talk to them. If they've had department heads set up like wardrobe or, locations or, stunts and special effects, what can I do to make your job easier? What can you do? What can you not do? How long are you going to be shooting? Do you want to avoid nights? Do you want to avoid, dealing with rain? So I get all those questions answered beforehand so that when I start writing my outline, everybody's already on that same page with, okay, here's the things we're going to do. It's so much easier to change 10 pages of an outline than realize you're on page 70 of a screenplay and you got to go back and start over because something doesn't work.
Hmm.
When you're able to hand those producers or that director that outline and they can see what every single scene is, where it's going, the things that they'll need, it's so much easier to change stuff in that moment rather than pumping out draft after draft after draft and then having people kick around this 90-page document as opposed to something that's 10 pages. So that's something that I usually try and do with a lot of these projects.
What's great about that is you are really coming at it as being of service to your client, basically,
Yes.
where a lot of screenwriters have this ego that it's like, it's my work, it's my story, it's my screenplay. I'm like, no, dude, you were hired for a
Yes.
job and you being paid for that job, and you need to be of service to the client. When you get to the point where you're Aaron Sorkin or Charlie Kaufman or Shane Black, then or Tarantino, then you do whatever the hell you want, and it's a different
Right.
conversation at that point. But you're still being of service, and even these screenwriters who are working on Avengers, I promise you that they were being of service to the
Oh,
Russo brothers.
absolutely. They have a very specific sandbox that we're working in, and going back to, talking about Star Wars, we've seen a lot of writers come and go. And I really think a lot of that is probably because, I'm not in the room. I don't really know. But I imagine a lot of that is, the producers say, here's our overall vision. You can work with this or not. And if, things get outside of that and they decide, I can't stay in this box that you've given me, then you move on to somebody who can. And
Right.
it's the thing with independent stuff. It doesn't matter how artistic or eloquent you think your script is. If it's unshootable, it's unproducible, then they'll find somebody else to replace
Right.
you with. So it's not so much selling out as it is buying in.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.